I kept asking God, what's the focus? I'm always asking him that. What's the focus? Because sometimes these things go so far, there's so many details, so much in there that we could go off on rabbit trails constantly. And I love rabbit trails. I really do. But from the pulpit, the rabbit trail is kind of a loss at times. When there's something profound and singular he really wants us to know. And I want to read these introductions that I found online this week, both from First Fruits of Zion and different things, but that talk about what this reading is about out of Genesis. Dysfunctional families. Us, right? Dysfunctional families can take some measure of solace from the stories in the Bible. Contrary to popular expectation, the Bible does not present stories about model families behaving according to a high moral code of family values. It's the opposite. Instead, we find tales of sibling rivalry, polygamy, deceit, conflict. What is the Torah trying to teach us by giving us these stories of these people who are so messed up? Because they are. You see, the lesson isn't about the people. The lesson isn't about us. The lesson is about God. Yep. And who God is in the midst of our dysfunction. The seventh reading from the book of Genesis is named Vayetze, which means, and he went out. The title comes from the first verse of the reading, which says, Jacob went out from Beersheba. This portion will tell us about the story of Jacob's flight from his brother Esau, his vision at Bethel, his employment with his uncle Laban, his marriage, being tricked into marrying two sisters, Rachel and Leah, and this double marriage resulting in a baby-bearing contest between jealous sisters, but it gives him 11 sons. And at the end of the portion, we read how Jacob leaves Laban and returns to the land of Canaan, but not before Laban tries to stop him. And that's where our reading is today. So we will listen to the reading out of Genesis, beginning in 28, Genesis chapter 28, verse 10. Frank is going to read through 29:3.
Then Jacob departed from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he happened upon a particular place and spent the night there because of the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of the place and made it support his head and lay down in that place. And he had a dream. Behold, a ladder. A ladder was set on earth with its top reaching to the heaven, and behold, the angel of God were ascending and descending on it. Then behold, the Lord was standing above it and said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the land on which you lie I will give you and to your descendants. Your descendants will also be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south, and you and all your descendants shall, and all your families of the earth be blessed. Behold, I am with you, and to keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. Then Jacob awoke from the sleep and said, The Lord is certainly in this place, as I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is the place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. And Jacob got up early in the morning and took the stone that he had placed as a support for his head and set it up as a memorial stone and poured oil on its top. Then he named the place Bethel, but previously the name of the city had been Luz, for Jacob also made a vow, saying, if God be with me and will keep me on this journey that I take, and will give me food to eat and garments to wear, and I return to my father's house in safety, then the Lord will be my God. This stone which I have set up as a memorial stone will be God's house, and everything that you give me, I will assuredly give a tenth to you. Then Jacob set out on his journey and went to the land of the people of the east. He looked and saw a well in the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it, because they watered the flocks from that well. Now the stone on the mountain of the well was large, and when the flocks were gathered there, they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep, and then they would put the stone on the back of its place and on the mouth of the well. Let's see here. That's it.
Paula, 29, well, let me tell you briefly. One of the things that is cool in this passage is where Jacob lays down. He's running from his brother. He has taken nothing with him. It says he left with nothing. He lays down with his head on a stone, and God gives him the dream of angels coming down. The rabbis say that these angels, there's at least 4 of them, and many of the rabbis think that it's 4 specific angels coming down, the angels that are over the principalities over those nations that will enslave Israel at a later time. And so Jacob is laying there. Here are these angels, and they are frightening. They're frightening. It says, suddenly Adonai was standing there next to him. God was with him and wanted him to know that in the running away, in everything that's going on, he is still with Jacob. He's not letting him go out by himself. Just like when Israel goes into captivity later in the diaspora, God says he goes with Israel. He doesn't send Israel out alone. If you feel like you are in a diaspora, if you feel like you're wandering in a desert, if you feel like you've had to run away, God is with you. Remember, God is with you. And he's made promises, and Jacob responds to those promises. Paula, would you come and read 29 verse 4 through 35?
Okay, now this is 29. It's not, that's the wrong one. That's all right. No, it's fine.
You can start at the beginning of 29 if you want to.
Okay. Then Jacob set out on his journey and went to the land of the people of the east. He looked and saw a well at the field, and behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it, because they watered the flocks from that well. Now the stone on the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, they would roll the stone from the mouth of the well and water the sheep. Then they would put the stone back in its place on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." So he said to them, "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" And they said, "We know him." And he said to them, "It is well with him?" And they said, "It is well. And here is his daughter Rachel coming with the sheep." Then he said, "Look, it is still high day. It is not time for the livestock to be gathered. Water the sheep and go pasture them." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are gathered." And they rolled a stone from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. Then Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his mother's brother Laban, and the sheep of his mother's brother Laban. Jacob went up and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and watered the flock of his mother's brother Laban. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and raised his voice and wept. Jacob told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. So when Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, "You certainly are my bone of my flesh." And he stayed with him a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was beautiful in figure and appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel. So he said, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel." Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than to give her to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to like him only a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my time is completed, and I may have relations with her." So Laban gathered, this is coming apart here. So Laban gathered all the people of the place and held a feast. Now in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to him, and Jacob had relations with her. Laban also gave his female slave Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a slave. So it came about in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, "What is this that you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served with you? Why then have you deceived me?" But Laban said, "It is not the practice in our place to marry off the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, and we will give you the other also for the service which you shall serve with me for another 7 years." Jacob did so and completed her week, and he gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. Laban also gave his female slave Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her slave. So Jacob had relations with Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban for another 7 years. Now the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, and Rachel was unable to have children. Leah conceived and gave birth to a son, and named him Reuben. For she said, "Because the Lord has seen my affliction, surely now my husband will love me." Then she conceived again and gave birth to a son, and said, "Because the Lord has heard that I was unloved, he has therefore given me this son also." So she named him Simeon. And she conceived again and gave birth to a son, and said, "Now this time my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore he was named Levi. And she conceived again and gave birth to a son, and said, "This time I will praise the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped having children. I think that's the end of it. Yeah. Okay.
It's interesting. The scripture says that Leah was weak of the eyes, and there's different interpretations of that, different applications of that. One of the ones that I find interesting, some have interpreted that to mean she wasn't good looking. She wasn't good to look at. It was bad on your eyes to look at her, but that's really not what is implied in the Hebrew. What is implied in the Hebrew is that her eyes were sore and swollen. And in rabbinic literature, it's understood that one of the reasons Leah's eyes were weak, were swollen, were sore, was because she cried. Because she wept and she cried. And the reason she was weeping and crying was because she was supposed to, and she knew, they both knew, they were to marry within the family, right? That's the way it was done. And it was tradition that she would have wed the oldest son of her aunt, which would have been Esau. And she had not heard good things about Esau. And that Esau never came for her. Esau took women of the Canaanites. Esau did not seek after God. And Leah wept because of that, because she was supposed to have been Esau's bride and was not. But that when Jacob got the birthright, he got more than he had bargained for, because part of that birthright had to do with his marriage and who he would be married to. The firstborn's birthright was to be married to the firstborn of the family. So he got Leah as a wife and ended up with Rachel as well. Not the ideal situation. Not the way God would have had it. If we looked at the ideal, Esau would have been a man after God's heart, just like Jacob was. Esau would not have been necessarily the one to receive the birthright, but he would have been still serving God, in which case he would have gone and married the bride, Leah, and he did not. And so we now have these two women competing for their husband's affection. Understand, it was the bride's right. It was a legal right as a woman, as a wife, to have relations with her husband so that she could have children. If he denied her that, she could divorce him and have him punished by the elders. So he does not deny that. And Leah begins having children. Janie, you're going to read the next part for us, Genesis 31 through 36. And here we have this war to have children continuing.
The rest of the kids. Now, when Rachel saw that she had not borne Jacob any children, she became jealous of her sister, and she said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I'm going to die." Then Jacob's anger burned against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" Then she said, "Here is my female slave, Bilhah. Have relations with her, that she may give birth on my knees, so that by her I too may obtain a child." So she gave him her slave Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob had relations with her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has vindicated me, and has indeed heard my voice, and has given me a son." Therefore she named him Dan. And Rachel's slave Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. So Rachel said, "With mighty wrestling I have wrestled with my sister, and I have indeed prevailed." And she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took her slave Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. And Leah's slave Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, "How fortunate!" So she named him Gad. And Leah's slave Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, "Happy am I, for women will call me happy." So she named him Asher. Now in the days of wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrake fruits in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But she said to her, "Is it a small matter for you to take my husband? And would you take also my son's mandrakes?" So Rachel said, "Therefore he may sleep with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came in from the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must have relations with me, for I have indeed hired you with my son's mandrakes." So he slept with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a 5th son. Then Leah said, God has given me my reward, because I gave my slave to my husband. So she named him Issachar. And Leah conceived again and bore a 6th son to Jacob. Then Leah said, God has endowed me with a good gift. Finally, my husband will acknowledge me as his wife, because I have borne him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. Afterward, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. So she conceived and gave birth to a son and said, God has taken away my disgrace. And she named him Joseph, saying, May the Lord give me another son. Now it came about when Rachel had given birth to Joseph that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away so that I may go to my own place and to my own country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go. For you yourself know my service which I have rendered you. But Laban said to him, If it pleases you at all, stay with me. I have determined by divination that the Lord has blessed me on your account. He continued, Name me your wages, and I will give them. But Jacob said to him, You yourself know how I have served you, and how your livestock have fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it has increased to a multitude, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I turn. But now, when shall I provide for my own household also? So he said, What shall I give you? And Jacob said, You shall not give me anything. If you will do this one thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flock. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing from there every speckled or spotted sheep, and every black sheep among the lambs, and the spotted or speckled among the goats, and those shall be my wages. So my honesty will answer for me later when you come concerning my wages. Everyone that is not speckled or spotted among the goats, or black among the lambs, if found with me, will be considered stolen. Laban said, Good, let it be according to your word. So he removed on that day the striped or spotted male goats, and all the speckled or spotted female goats, every one with white on it, and all the black ones among the sheep, and put them in the care of his sons. And he put a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock.
So that baby war continued, right? It's okay, Frank, come on up. And God blessed them anyway. Had God forgotten Rachel? It says God remembered Rachel. That doesn't mean he had forgotten her. It means he's turned his attention to her for this, to answer this. And now we have God blessing Jacob in a different way. Frank, go ahead and read verse 37 of chapter 30 through 31:21.
Then Jacob took fresh rods of poplar, almond, and plane trees, and peeled white strips in them, exposing the white that was in the rods. Then he set the rods which he had peeled in front of the flocks and the drinking troughs, that is, in the watering channels where the flocks came to drink, and they mated, and when they came to drink, so the flocks mated by the rods, and the flocks delivered striped, speckled, spotted offspring. Then Jacob separated the lambs and made flocks face toward the striped and all the black in the flock of Laban, and he put his own herds apart and did not put them in with Laban's flock. Moreover, whenever the stronger of the flock were mating, Jacob would place the rods inside of the flock in the drinking troughs so that they would mate by the rods. But when the flock was sickly, he did not put them in. So the sickly were Laban's, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. So the man became exceedingly prosperous and had large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father. He has made all this wealth. And Jacob saw the multitude of Laban, and behold, the attitude of Laban, and behold, it was not friendly toward him as it had been before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent word and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the fields, and said to them, I see your father's attitude, that is not friendly toward me as it was before. But the God of my father has been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. However, God did not allow him to do me harm. If he said this, the speckled shall be your wages, then the flock delivered speckled. And if he said this, the stripes shall be your wages, then the flock delivered stripes. So God has taken away all your father's livestock and given them to me. And it came about at the time when the flock was breeding, that I raised my eyes and saw in a dream, and behold, the male goats were mating with the striped, speckled, or mottled. Then the angel of the Lord said to me in a dream, Jacob, and I said, here I am. He said, now raise your eyes and see that all the male goats that are mating are striped and speckled or mottled, for I have seen everything that Laban has been doing to you. I am God of Bethel, where you anointed. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a memorial stone, where you made a vow to me. Now arise, leave this land, return to the land of your births. Rachel and Leah said to him, do we still have any share or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? For as he sold us and has entirely consumed our purchase price, surely all the wealth which God has taken away from our father belongs to us and our children. Now then, do whatever God has told you. Then Jacob stood up and put his children, his wives, and his camels, and he drove away all his livestock and all his property which he had acquired. The livestock he possessed, which had acquired in Padan Aram, and to go to the land of the Canaan to his father Isaac. Laban had gone to shear his flock, and Rachel stole the household idols that were her father's, and Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean by not telling him that he was slain. So he fled with all that he had, and he got up and crossed the Euphrates River and set out for the hill country of Gilead. Is that it?
So God blesses Jacob regardless, right? Laban tries to cheat him, and God still blesses him. And then God tells him when it's time to go back. When is it time, when you've had to leave something, when is it time to go back? When God says. When God says, not before. This whole time, Jacob has been waiting for his mother to send word that Esau wasn't mad anymore. Because that's what she said she would do. When Esau's anger is spent and he's not mad anymore, I'll send word and you can come back. She never sent that message. But God said, it's time. It's time. Paula, would you come and read Genesis 31:22 through 32, verse 2 in the Standard Christian Bibles?
Okay.
And we'll see what, remember Rachel took something that wasn't hers, right? We just read about it. Let's see what the result of that is.
22 to 3. Oh, okay. Well, no. There. Okay. Okay. When Laban was informed on the third day that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsmen with him and pursued him a distance of 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the hill country of Gilead. However, God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream of the night and said to him, be careful that you do not speak to Jacob, either good or bad. And Laban caught up with Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen, camped in the hill country of Gilead. Then Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done by deceiving me and carrying away my daughters like captives with a sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me and did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with joy, with songs, with tambourine, with lyre, and did not allow me to kiss my grandchildren and my daughters? Now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, 'Be careful not to speak either good or bad to Jacob.' Now you have indeed gone away because you longed greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Then Jacob replied to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force. The one with whom you find your gods shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, point out what is yours among my belongings, and take it for yourself." Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two slave women, but he did not find them. Then he went out to Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols and put them in the camel's saddlebag, and she sat on them. So Laban searched through the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, "May my lord not be angry that I cannot stand in your presence because the way the women is upon me?" So he searched, but did not find the household idols. Then Jacob became angry and issued with Laban, and Jacob said to Laban, "What is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me? Though you have searched through all my property, have you found all of your household property? Set it here in front of my relatives and your relatives, so that they may decide between the two of us. For these 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten the rams of your flocks. I did not even bring to you that which was torn by wild animals. I took the loss myself. You demanded it of my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. This is how I was. By day and the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sheep fled from my eyes. For these 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac, had not been for me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, so he rendered judgment last night." Then Laban replied to Jacob, "The daughters of my daughters, the children are my grandchildren, and the flocks are my flocks, and everything that you see is mine. But what can I do this day to these daughters of mine, or to their children of whom they have given birth? So now come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be a witness between you and me." Then Jacob took a stone and set it up as a memorial stone. Jacob said to his relatives, "Gather stones." So they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Now Laban called it Jaharsa Hadjuthula. Oh my gosh.
Close enough.
Okay. But Jacob called it Gilead. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me and this day. Therefore it is named Gilead and Mizpah, for he said, 'May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are absent one from another. So if you mistreat my daughters, or if you take wives besides my daughters, although no one is with us, see, God is witness between you and me.'" Laban also said to Jacob, "Behold this heap, and behold the memorial stone which I have set between you and me." This heap is a witness, and the memorial stone is a witness, that I will not pass by this heap to you for harm, and you will not pass by this heap and this memorial stone to me for harm. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his relatives to the meal, and they ate the meal and spent the night on the mountain. Then early in the morning Laban got up and kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. Now as Jacob went on his way, the angels of God met him, and when he saw them, Jacob said, "This is God's camp." So he named the place Mahatnem. Okay, that was it. Mahatnem. Okay.
God's camp. The angels of God met him. Who took the idols from Laban? Rachel. Who deceived Laban by putting them underneath her? Rachel. Remember what Jacob says about whoever the idols are found with will die. Remember that. It's going to come into play next week.
Okay.
It's going to come into play next week. God protects Jacob even as he leaves. Laban wants to claim the wives and the children as his. When his wives have already, when the daughters have already told their husband he treats us like outsiders. So now there's a sudden shift. Notice who the wives are and who named all the children. Rachel and Leah, right? So Bilhah and is given as a surrogate. Zilpah is given as a surrogate. They are concubines. They are not full benefit wives. That's why they don't name the children. The wives do. They're surrogates. And that's part of why we don't use them in the blessing over the children, although they are the mothers of some of the tribes of Israel. It was an entirely different system of living than what we have today. But even in all of that, God blessed, God honored, God guided, and God protected, right? Because of his promises, because of his covenant. Janie's going to come and read for us out of our prophets' writings, out of Hosea. And we're going to see the very first part of Hosea. It's Hosea 12, beginning in verse 13, where we see God comparing Jacob to Israel, all of Israel, as the nation. Janie?
Hosea 12. But by a prophet the Lord brought Israel up from Egypt, and by a prophet he was protected. Ephraim has provoked God to bitter anger, so his Lord will leave his guilt for bloodshed on him and bring his disgrace back to him. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling. He exalted himself in Israel, but through Baal he incurred guilt and died. And now they sin more and more, and make for themselves cast metal images, idols skillfully made from their silver, all of them the work of craftsmen. They say of them, "Let the people who sacrifice kiss the calves." Therefore they will be like the morning cloud, and like dew which soon disappears, like chaff which is blown away from the threshing floor, and like smoke from a chimney. Yet I have been the Lord your God since the land of Egypt, and you were not to know me to know any God except me, for there is no Savior besides me. I cared for you in the wilderness, in the land of drought, and as they had their pasture, they became satisfied. And as they became satisfied, their heart became proud. Therefore, they forgot me. So I will be like a lion to them. Like a leopard, I will lie in wait by the wayside. I will confront them like a bear deprived of her cubs, and I will tear open their chests. I will also devour them there like a lioness, and as a wild animal would tear them to pieces. It is to your own destruction, Israel, that you are against me, against your help. Where then is your king, that he might save you in all your cities? And your judges, to whom you said, give me a king and princes. I gave you a king in my anger, and took him away in my wrath.
No, keep reading.
No, I'm done.
No. You're reading to
14:10.
14:10.
Yeah.
Chapter 14, verse. You're reading the whole book, the rest of the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
good morning. I wondered why it stopped like right there. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't stop there. It keeps going.
The guilt of Ephraim is wrapped up. His sin is stored up. The pains of childbirth come on him. He is not a wise son, for it is not the time that he should delay at the opening of the womb. Shall I ransom them from the power of Sheol? Shall I redeem them from death? Death, where are your thorns? Sheol, where is your sting? Compassion will be hidden from my sight. Though he flourishes among the reeds, an east wind will come, the wind of the Lord coming up from the wilderness. And his fountain will become dry, and his spring will dry up. It will plunder his treasury of every precious article. Samaria will pay the penalty for her guilt, because she has rebelled against her God. They will fall by the sword, their children will be slaughtered, and their pregnant women will be ripped open. 14. Return, Israel, to the Lord your God, for you have stumbled because of your wrongdoing. Take words with you and return to the Lord. Say to him, take away all guilt and receive us graciously, so that we may present the fruit of our lips. Assyria will not save us. We will not ride on horses, nor will we say again, our God, to the work of our hands, for in you the orphan finds mercy. I will heal their apostasy. I will love them freely, because my anger has turned from them. I will be like the dew to Israel. He will blossom like the lily, and he will take root like the cedars of Lebanon. His shoots will sprout. His majesty will be like the olive tree, and his fragrance like the cedars of Lebanon. Those who live in his shadow will again raise grain, and they will blossom like the vine. His fame will be like the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim, what more have I to do with idols? It is I who answer and look after you. I am like a luxuriant juniper. From me comes your fruit. Whoever is wise, let him understand these things. Whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the righteous will walk in them, but wrongdoers will stumble in them.
That's a better ending.
Yeah.
Much better ending, isn't it? It takes Israel through that process where God has made promises, but Israel has walked away from the promises. Israel does not obey. Israel sets up idolatry. Idolatry is something God has to judge. When we walk out from under the protection of God, we are open to the attack of the enemy. When we involve ourselves in idolatry, we have walked out from under the protection of God. And what happens, God allows, but it's not always pretty. In fact, it's awful. Some of it's really awful. But God will use everything. I want to read one of the passages in here because it's something that we discussed in my Torah club not long ago. The pain of being born will come to him. It's verse 13 of chapter 13 of Hosea. But he is an unwise son. The time has come, and he shouldn't delay there at the mouth of the womb. Should I ransom them from Sheol? Shall I redeem them from death? Where are your plagues, death? Where's your destruction, Sheol? And there's another place where one of the prophets said that the labor was on, the labor was there, but the child would not be born. And that references to when Yeshua walked the earth. He was the Messiah. The child was born, but Israel would not give birth to the faith that Israel needed to go into the kingdom right then. Even here it says, the time has come, he shouldn't delay. But Israel delayed. And through the resurrection of Yeshua, through the sharing of the gospel, the story of the kingdom allowed for all the world, not just Israel, we have come into this place. If Israel had believed in Yeshua at the time, the kingdom would have come. And we would have been born in the millennium instead of in this season that we're in, the season of waiting, the season where the labor pains are there. But the kingdom has not been birthed. Kingdom has not been birthed. And we live in a time of the labor pains. And all of that continues to this day. We should understand these things. We should remember these things. We should recognize that God shows up when we're in danger. He guides, he blesses, he protects, and he gives us even more. And Karen is going to come and read our gospel portion for us today out of John chapter 1, verses 41 through 51. John 1, 41 through 51. Thank you, Karen, for agreeing to read.
How are you doing?
You see how good she walks?
Yeah, I noticed.
Frank
getting there.
reminds us, see how good she walks. Now this, she broke your leg, right?
Yep.
Yep. And had rods and pins and all of that, and then they took the rods and pins out after it had healed a certain point, and look at that. She's, she's a walking miracle. A walking miracle.
Okay, ready? He first found his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which translated means Christ. He brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, the son of John. You should be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. The next day he decided to go to Galilee, and he found Philip. And Jesus said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses wrote in the law, and the prophets also wrote, Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good be from Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him and said of him, "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered and said, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered and said to him, "Because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Truly, truly, I say, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man."
Now that's a promise, right? Yeah. I don't know how many of you have watched The Chosen, but in the episode where it shows Jesus meeting Nathanael, it shows Nathanael first losing everything in his life. He's lost his dreams, his hopes. He wanted to be an architect, the building, anyway, and he's under a tree weeping before God. And he gets upset. He's upset because God hasn't heard him. God hasn't seen him. And that's what he says, you don't even see me. And he rips up his plans and he throws them into the wind and he burns them. And it's just, it's this heart-rendering scene. And then Jesus sees him and says to him, I saw you under the fig tree, which answers that question. God, do you even see me? Right? There are times in our lives we are all there. God, do you even see me?
That's right.
Do you know who I am? God, wait a minute. God, it's not going the way I wanted it to. It's not going the way I thought you were going to have it go. What's going on, God? Nathaniel, we don't know all that. That's a backstory, okay? That's kind of like some of the rabbinical tales. Like the story of Leah weeping because she was going to have to marry Esau, right? That's a rabbinical tale. It's designed to tell us a story. It's designed to teach us a lesson. It may or may not be truth, but there's a lesson in it. Aesop's fables have good truths in them, but we know good and well that those animals don't talk, right? Nathanael is brought to Jesus, and Jesus says, a man in whom there is no deceit, a true son of Israel. Jesus sees him. Regardless of where Nathanael was before, Jesus sees him and recognizes who he is and acknowledges that to Nathanael. He acknowledges that. And this is part and parcel of how Nathanael knows this is Messiah. This is Mashiach. Remember Jacob running away. And he's laying there. And he goes to sleep with his head on the rocks. Now, those are not comfortable to sleep on. I don't know if you've ever tried it. I'm not a good camper. I don't like roughing it. In fact, my idea of roughing it is having a hotel that does not have a coffee maker in the room. Okay? If there's no coffee maker in the room, I'm not staying there. So Motel 6 is out. But anyway, he's laying down to sleep. There's one rabbinical tale that says he took the stones of the place and he formed a circle around himself as a way of protecting himself because he was afraid. So he forms a circle around himself with the stones to protect himself. And that as he lay there with his head on one of the rocks, all of the rocks came together and formed the base where this ladder now comes out of heaven, this stairwell, this path comes from heaven, and the angels begin ascending and descending upon this rock, which is the conglomerate of all the rocks that had been laid out. I don't know about that. What I know is that Jacob is feeling pretty left out. Jacob is afraid. And God stands there, and God says to him something important. Like Yeshua says to Nathanael, here is a true son of Israel, and Yeshua speaks to who Nathanael is in his heart, right? God speaks to who Jacob is. I'm Adonai, the God of Abraham, your grandfather, the God of Isaac, your father. The land on which you are lying, I will give to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the grains of the dust of the earth. You will expand to the east and to the west, to the north and to the south. By you and your descendants, all the families of the earth will be blessed. He is speaking to Jacob, to who Jacob is, and what the promise is that Jacob lives in. Jacob has the birthright. Jacob has the birthright. The birthright is the promise of God that this land will belong to his descendants. And then he says, I am with you. I will guard you wherever you go, and I will bring you back into this land, because I won't leave you until I have done what I have promised you. God speaks to who Jacob is, and God lets him know there is a promise in your life that I'm not going to let go of. He doesn't tell Jacob, you're not going to let go of it. He doesn't command Jacob in how to behave, or that he's, whatever manipulations Jacob is going to do. He doesn't say any of that. He makes a promise, and the promise is dependent upon who? It's dependent upon God. It's dependent upon God. Jesus speaks to Nathanael and he says, a true Israelite, a true son of Israel. This man is truly a child who seeks me, follows God, who loves God. There's no deceit in him. He is not pretending. Israel, not Jacob. Now, Jacob's name gets changed to Israel later, right? What does Jacob's name mean as Jacob? Heel grabber, deceiver. Okay? Israel, what does that mean? Do you remember? Son of God, right? Okay, so now we have the deceiver, we have Jacob, who's a trickster. Jacob becomes Israel, and God, Jesus is saying to Nathanael, he's not a son of Jacob's, he's a son of Israel. His heart is in the right place. And Nathanael knew, because here's someone who knows me. Do you ever have someone speak into you in a way that they had no reason or right to understand who you were or where you came from, and you knew it was a voice of God through them? I've had that happen a few times. Sometimes I've had people speak and say, this is what God says, and I've gone, I don't think so. Right? We've all had that happen too. Sometimes I've said, I don't think so, and I've kind of put it aside, and later on God shows me the part that it was correct in what they said. Because sometimes as people who try to speak prophetically, try to speak what we hear God say, sometimes we hear something and we put it in our own category of what it's supposed to mean. And so we hear the words, but we apply a meaning that may or may not be the way God wants it. Okay? Jesus tells Nathanael, you're going to see greater things than this. I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God going up and coming down on the Son of Man. Now, how many of us think that's a literal statement that says he's going to see the ladder of Jacob, right? This is actually a phrase that relates to the prophetic fulfillment of what God showed Jacob in the ladder. To see heavens opened is to receive a prophetic vision. A prophetic vision. Yeshua refers to himself as the Son of Man, which is a title from Messiah, right? The angels ascending and descending, which alludes to what Jacob's dream of the ladder means. Basically, you are going to see Messiah function as Messiah. God come to earth. The angels ascending and descending. You will see it. Nathanael sees the work that Yeshua does. Nathanael sees the baptism of Yeshua, where the dove comes. Nathanael sees the miracles that God does through Yeshua. And in seeing all of these things, most importantly, Nathanael sees the resurrected Messiah. He sees not just the angels, he sees God. He sees God. He sees that God works through Messiah. Messiah is the ladder between heaven and earth. Messiah is the rock that Jacob laid his head on. Messiah is the rock that was over the well that we read about that needed to be moved so the sheep could be watered? That's Messiah. It's a picture of Messiah. Messiah is the rock. God is our rock, right? All of these things aren't telling us what a wonderful person Jacob was. None of what we read today is telling us how honorable any of these people were. In fact, in our reading out of Hosea, we see how dishonorable the nation becomes. How they turn their back on God. How they worship other gods and they claim to honor them instead of the God who brought them out of the land of Egypt, instead of the God who promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob this promised land. They begin worshiping the gods of the land instead of the God who has the land, the God who truly is over the land. They worship the gods of the people that were there. Like Rachel stealing her dad's gods. Why would she steal her father's gods? I'll talk about that more next week because there's a part of that that is not just the fact that they were gods, little gods, but trying to steal a blessing from her father that her father had not given her. But why would she need them? She doesn't. Nathanael sees Jesus, and Jesus speaks to him of who he is. Just as God spoke to Jacob about who he is and the blessing he stands in and the promise he has made to Abraham and to Isaac and is now making it anew to Jacob. We read in Hosea that God promises. He says in in a Christian Bibles, it's verse 1 of chapter 14. In Jewish Bible, it's verse 2. It says, "Return, Israel, to Adonai your God. Your guilt has made you stumble." What makes us fall flat on our faces? When we have rejected God and walked away from him. "Take words with you, return to the Lord. Say to him, forgive our guilt, accept what is good. Instead of bulls, we're going to pay the offering of our lips." In other words, don't just give me the routines of worship. Give me your words that come from your heart. Verse 4, "I will heal their disloyalty. I will love them freely. For my anger has turned from him." What causes anger to turn from us? What causes God's anger to turn from us? What causes his blessing to come on us? Our hearts that say, "God, you are my God, and I will serve you, and I have made mistakes, and I'm sorry. Forgive me. Help me move forward," right? God says, "I will be like a dew to Israel, and he will blossom like the lily and strike roots like Lebanon. His branches will spread out. His beauty will be like the olive tree, and his fragrance like the Lebanon. And they will live in the shade and rise again." See, God's promises still stand. Even when we are disobedient, even when things don't look good, even when we're running for our lives, God's promises still stand. God's promises are never taken away. His word is his word. Am I looking in the wrong chapter? Okay. This is Paul writing to the book of Philippians. To the people in Philippi, he says, "Brothers, I want you to know that what has happened to me has helped in advancing the good news. There are things that happened to Paul that we could, from the outside looking in, we could say something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. He's in prison. He's been beaten. He's been left for dead a couple of times. He's now in Rome. It has become clear to the whole palace, to everyone else, that it is because of the Messiah that I am in chains. My being in prison has given most of the brothers in the Lord confidence, so that they become much more bold in speaking the word of God fearlessly. What matters, he says in Philippians chapter 1, is that God's word is being spoken. Some people are speaking it out of selfish ambition. He acknowledges that, with impure motives, supposing they can stir up trouble even. But what matters is that in every way, whether honestly or in pretense, the Messiah is being proclaimed. And in that I rejoice. Messiah is being proclaimed. His prayer for us in verse 9, this is my prayer, that your love may more and more overflow in fullness of knowledge and depth of discernment, so you will be able to determine what is best and thus pure and without blame for the day of Messiah, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through the Yeshua the Messiah, to the glory and the praise of God. You see, there is a way that God is working, that he is going to work, that he's going to continue to work, whether it looks good, whether it looks bad, whether it feels good, whether it's hard. God has made promises. He is going to complete those promises. He who began a good work in you will complete it. That's a promise. He who began a good work in you will complete it. It makes it easier if we cooperate with him. It does. But he has promised. You see, everything we've read is about God. It's about who God is. It's about what God is doing, about how God is going to take care of his people. You and I are his people. He's going to take care of us. Sometimes we go through hard things. It wasn't easy on Jacob taking care of the sheep. He talks about it when he confronts Laban and he says, you know, I went hungry, I went thirsty, I was cold, I was hot. It cost me. It's not always easy, but it will result in good. It will result in good. God has made promises. God will keep his promises from now into eternity. He does not let go of us. I've kind of joked, you know, in the Gospel of John in chapter 10, it talks about how we're in Yeshua's hand and Yeshua is in God's hand, and so therefore we're in double hands, right? And God can't lose us. And sometimes I've joked and said, I think I've tried to jump out of those hands a few times, but a bungee cord is attached. When I try to jump, God pulls me back. If you are his child and you try to jump, he will do everything he can to pull you back. He will do everything he can to pull you back. Sometimes things happen in our lives simply because we live in a fallen world and it's difficult and it's painful. Sometimes things happen in our lives because someone else's choices are terrible and hard and that affects us. Sometimes things happen in our lives because like Job, Satan has brought us before God and said, hey, look, if you let me do this, then they'll curse you. And God says, oh, no, they won't. Oh, no, they won't. Oh, no, they won't. Job did not do anything wrong. So when you see a believer going through hard times, don't assume that they're walking in sin or they've walked out from under the protection of God. It may just be that God is showing himself strong in that person in a way you don't understand, like he did with Job. But sometimes it is because of things we've done wrong. We've walked out from under his protection and things are happening. Regardless of which direction it is, God still has made promises. He still will keep his promises. He will not let go of us. He will cause everything to work together for good. He will be blessed and glorified. And we participate in that blessing and in that being glorified. Because we are his children. He sees you and he knows who you are. He knows whether you're Jacob, the weasel, kind of, or Nathaniel, the one in whom there's no guile. He knows whether you're walking away or whether you're with him. He knows who you are. And he loves you, just as he loves me. And he will protect you, and he will take care of you. And we will see the promises of God. Just like Nathaniel saw the promises of God fulfilled in Yeshua, we can see the promises of God as well.